Alrighty. Good morning. Chilly morning. What is today? Saturday the 26th, February 26th. Woo. Very, very chilly. I'm going to put the hood up too. Sorry for scratching the mic. Alrighty. So, I missed yesterday. Well, for one, it was raining, so I didn't do my walk. And for two, I had a deadline at work that I needed to hit, and I didn't need the distraction. So, sorry about missing yesterday, but I don't think you missed out on much. So, sorry, I'm trying to fix the mic stand or whatever. Alrighty, so, yeah. Yesterday. Today, okay, so, a little late to this, but for anybody new to the channel, new to the show, this is a little series that I do called I guess we're calling Walking Around the Rivers of Life, which is not a philosophical statement. We're literally walking around the Rivers of Life Church every morning while I attempt to ramble coherently while waking up, because I literally just woke up like 5 minutes ago, and this is my morning walk. I put on clothes. I wake up, put on clothes, and walk out the door. So yeah. We I had a hard time getting going. Spent a lot of hours yesterday. I guess pulled a little bit out of the tank there. But alrighty. So I have like this whole list of like topics that I could potentially talk about in the attempt to try and make sure I always have something to talk about. So this morning, the rabbit I pulled out of the hat was talking about losing weight. And I think that's an interesting topic because I have spent some fair amount of time studying nutrition. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not an expert. I can't give you dietary advice. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. This is the internet. Make up your... You got to be responsible for your own decisions. It's not me. All right. I hate that stuff like that has to be said. So, yeah. So now you might be thinking, people who know me might be saying, well, you've never been overweight. How can you know anything about losing weight? Well, I have gained and lost like significant sums of weight over my life. Like when I was, I don't know, 18, 19 years old, I weighed like 135 pounds when I went into the Marines. And I guess it was about 10 years ago was the first time that I topped 200, and I'm 6'3", so 200 is a pretty decent weight for 6'3". And now my goal now is I got up to 200, and I think I've been up to like 210, and I've been back down to 170. So I've been up and down. I feel like I've done it enough that I have a grasp on what the process is and how to do it. And it's as easy. It's an easy thing to do, and it's also an easy thing to mess up, in my personal opinion, because a lot of the advice out there. By the way, I do I don't know, maybe just for posterity's sake. I guess at the start of the year, I weighed. I was hovering over 200. I'm now down below 180 since the start of the year. My goal is, which I don't think I'm going to make, because I think I put on a lot more. I'm hoping that I put on more muscle mass that makes this impractical. But my goal is to be at 150 by July, which is my birthday's at the start of July. So I want to be at 150 because I felt like I was lean then, and I figured that gives me like an extra 15 pounds of muscle that I could have potentially put on in the intervening 20 years, but we'll see. But I've been up and down, and my goal now is 150, and we're about halfway there. My goal has been about 5 pounds per month. February has actually been a terrible month. January went a whole lot better, but yeah. We still got time to save it though. I'm supposed to be at we were supposed to be at 175 by the end of this month, by the start of the next month, and I ended up revising that to 170. So even if I don't hit my 170 goal, because I'd already hit 175. So even if I don't hit the 170 goal, then it's still a success in my mind. Even though we will be, if I need to make up 5 pounds. It's why I changed the goal, because we weren't going to meet the 150 pounds by July goal if I stayed at that current track. So anyway, yeah, this is neither here nor there. So I need to lose weight. I think first and foremost, you got to get healthy. A lot of I was, like I said, I was 135 pounds, and I mean, I was young, but I stayed. I don't think I ever got over 155 pounds until after my Crohn's was diagnosed. And when my Crohn's finally was diagnosed and they started treating me for it, I gained 50 pounds in a year. And of course, I was trying to gain weight. I was doing CrossFit at the time. I was trying to gain muscle mass. I was trying to gain a lot of weight. But what I ended up doing was just packing on a lot of fat in the process. Fat that actually it ended up being a lot harder to take off than I thought it would at first glance. But yeah, it was a so. I forget where I'm going with this, but yeah. So it is deceptively simple to lose weight. I mean, here's the first order approximation to losing weight. Let's just get right into it. Losing weight is based off of how many calories you're consuming versus how many calories you're expending. And let's look at the expenditure side of the equation. If you've ever gotten on the treadmill or the assault bike or whatever, and you put it on the calorie meter and you started burning calories, right? You got in your fat burning mode, and what did that experience tell you? For me, it told me that is a very inefficient use of time because it takes hours to burn hundreds of calories, and 100 calories is one of those little Weight Watchers snack cakes, treat cakes or whatever, like the 100-calorie treats that that all these different companies were putting out for a long time. The 100-calorie things, it take you 30 minutes to burn that off. That's just it's so much easier just not to eat it than to spend all the time burning it off. All right, so your first order approximation is it is a lot more effective just from a time perspective, never mind the effort, to just the physical effort, to just not consume the calories rather than try and burn them off. Now, exercise has many benefits, but it makes you healthier in a lot of different ways, but you can't outrun your diet. That's what they say, and it's borne true in my own personal experience. It's easier to make your weight loss goals at the plate than it is at the gym. As far as what you should eat, now you could spend a lot of time studying the best diet, and I have for a variety of reasons, and I may do some quick guides on the studies the learnings, not studies, I guess, the learnings that I have discovered regarding which diet and the differences between the diets and why you would want to do one over the other, because there is some interesting stuff there. But again, the first order approximation is that if you wanted to lose the maximum amount of weight, then what you would want to do is, the best diet is no diet, is to not eat at all. It's kind of become like this dirty word, fasting or whatever, in the dietary community, medical community, not to talk about fasting, because they often say that they're worried about unhealthy eating patterns, and basically they're worried about people becoming orthorexic, anorexic, or something like that. Orthorexic. They're worried about people not eating and body dysmorphia or whatever. I don't know what it's called. They're worried about people not eating correctly. They're worried about somebody getting some mental issue regarding their body image or whatever, and then eating wrong or something. But that's to me, that is a completely different thing. Like, You are not going to give somebody depression that is not already prone or experiencing depression just by giving them dietary advice. You're not going to give somebody obsessive compulsive disorder by giving somebody dietary advice. I'm like, this is so stupid. I'm like, the problem is the mental illness, not the eating pattern. The eating pattern is the symptom of the mental illness. This is so stupid. And this is side rant. Yay, okay, we made it to the side rant. Side rant, this is why psychology and most of the headlines you read in psychology is so shitty, because they always, at least in the media, always summarize studies as causation instead of just correlation. So you can correlate events together, which may or may bear some mechanistic relationship, but it doesn't tell you if it exists. For that, you need an actual scientific experiment where you put a group of people in column A and a group of people in column B, and you control all the relevant details, and you just change the one thing that you're under study. And ideally, you do it where even the researchers don't know who's in which thing. That's called a double-blind study, or you know, a trial, clinical trial. They figured all this stuff out. This is not rocket science, but 90% of the studies out there are just observational studies, small sample sizes. Basically, it's all useless. A lot of our research dollars goes to useless research, studying stuff that doesn't have enough statistical power, simply because it's we don't have any. I think it's because we don't have some big overriding authority that comes up and says, okay, well, this is our new Manhattan project for psychology, and we're going to pump all our research dollars into this one project to study this one question that we will study definitively and reach a conclusion if possible. Like physics has that. Of course, physics doesn't involve people, so it's inherently easier to study, but they have a lot of, you know, independent papers and stuff to go on, but they also, as a discipline, are organized enough to get these big, huge tentpole experiments together, like CERN, like Hubble, like like Kepler, you know, or the Curiosity rover. Well, you know, you have these big, huge they come together in these big, huge process, and once the projects get up and running, then they get a whole bunch of papers that people write about these projects using the data that's generated by it. But the point is they're working together. Whereas you see this all the time in psychology and nutrition, at least from the media side. It's just constant low quality bullshit papers over and over and over again, and that's why you see all the flip-flopping about, oh, cholesterol is good, oh, cholesterol is bad, oh, saturated fat is good, oh, saturated fat is bad. By the way, both of those things perfectly fine to consume. If there is a negative effect, it's small. That's why it's flip-flops all the time. So don't worry about it. Just, you can eat all the red meat you want. As far as I'm concerned, you can eat all the red meat you want. That's what I'm doing. I eat all the cholesterol I want. In fact, I think it's back in 2015, they very silently removed the diet in the dietary guidelines in like 2015 or so. I don't know the exact date, but it was years ago. They removed from the dietary guidelines, and it says right there in there, something almost quoting, it says cholesterol is no longer a nutrient of concern. The key takeaway point being that as far as the USDA nutritional guidelines go, they don't even bother trying to figure out how much you should eat, because the science is in, And cholesterol that you measure in your blood is the cholesterol that you measure in your blood is not very correlated with the cholesterol that you consume, because your body makes your own cholesterol. And even when you measure cholesterol by itself is a very poor predictor of even cardiovascular health. So it's, yeah, it's big kerfuffle, and the reason why you don't hear it trumpeted all over the news is because that was like a big tentpole part of the ideology of nutrition science for a long time, and people don't want to have their eggs on their face, so they don't want to be trumpeting saying, "Oh, we got it wrong, guys." By the way, just like we got it wrong with trans fats and margarine, just like we as a, like, going back to like medicine or psychology, just like we got it wrong with electroshock therapy, just like we got it wrong with bloodletting, just like we got it, the list goes on and on and on. And the reason why they never learned their lesson. The reason why they keep getting it wrong is because they're not doing science. They're just doing studies. They're just doing observations. That's one step of science. It's not all of science. So, okay. Yes. Rant over. Yes. Okay. So, the most effective thing that you can do if you want to lose weight is, moderate exercise is good. Even just, a 15-minute walk, that'll help get your blood flowing and stuff, but we're not going to focus on that. The most effective thing you can do is to not eat. I think it was back in August or so, I was getting on up there in weight. I was like over 200 or something like that. And yeah, it was like July or August of last year. And so I was like, okay, well, I've done fasts before, even fast up to like close to 2 weeks before. But I was like, okay, I'm getting kind of heavy here, and might as well lose weight. Let's see how fast I can get this weight off. And I fasted for just shy of a month or something like that. I ended up getting sick, like infection, whatever, flu or something like that near the end. So I had to break the fast. But it worked. I got down below 170 pounds, like within a month. And that's the first revelation that I guess everybody needs to know whenever you're losing weight. Almost all the weight and you hear people talk about it, but I don't think it really sinks in to a lot of people. Most of the weight that you lose, especially initially, is water weight. Your body, especially if you fast, or you do keto or low carb or something like that, and you're consuming less carbohydrates, your body retains carbohydrates. When you have a whole bunch of carbohydrates, your body retains more water. And also, the more inflamed your body is, the more water it retains. So if you go on a diet that is healthier, or you stop eating altogether, so there's nothing that you're consuming that could inflame your body, and also no carbohydrates being ingested that could help you retain water, your body's going to flush a lot of water very quickly. So you could lose pounds in a day early on. But after you get past that initial flush, the thing that you got to keep in mind, even fasting. Now, think about it this way. This is the absolute best case scenario from the intake side, is that you're consuming, on the consummation side, the equation is zero, right? You're consuming no calories. So you can't get any better than that. And so if you're looking at it from that way, and then you look at your base, how many calories is it in it? So if you're consuming 0 calories, how many calories are you consuming just by living and breathing? And for most people, the dietary standard on the back of the nutrition labels here in America, they're all, when it says that something is 26% or whatever, what that's talking about is versus a 2,000 calorie diet. So we'll assume that the baseline is a 2,000 calorie diet. The other part of the equation you need to know is how many calories is in a pound, because you want to know, well, how many calories do I need to burn to lose a pound of fat? And this is actually incorrect, but the approximation that most people go with, which is fine for our purposes, is 3,500 pounds. So we'll just round that up to 4,000 just to make the math easier. So every day your body is burning 2,000 calories, and a pound of fat is 4,000 calories. What does that tell you? If you're not consuming anything, that means you're going to lose a half a pound a day. And that is around the maximum that you are going to lose if you just fast and eat nothing. So that's your ideal weight loss. So if you think about it, from the maximum sustained weight loss figure is half a pound. So that means it's about, what's that? 7 times 0.5 or whatever. That's close to 5 pounds. It's like, what is that? 4.5, 3.5, 3.5 pounds, something like that. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 3.5 pounds. 3.5 pounds a week. Now, I think for any extended fast, you also have to factor in the water weight loss, right? Just barring aside the initial water weight loss of, like, I can always tell whenever I'm going into transitioning into ketosis, usually just by, I've never really noticed the acetone breath or whatever. I've never really noticed the mental clarity or the energy in either keto or while fasting. But I have noticed that whenever I go into ketosis, meaning my glycogen stores in my liver are completely depleted and my body's having to switch over, it has been burning a little bit of spare protein floating around in my blood for a little bit, maybe a day or two, and then it's finally decided, okay, well, he's really serious about this not eating thing. So then body switches over to fat, starts consuming fat, turning that into ketones, and then running off of that. That is what ketosis is. So I can always tell whenever I'm doing that switch, because I have a blood ketone meter, so I can take direct measurements of ketones. Instead, the P strips are not very accurate. Probably the most accurate thing that you could do at home is have a blood ketone meter, and that's what I have. And so I can usually tell whenever I start peeing like a racehorse, and I haven't been consuming massively more liquids than I know, okay, we're going into ketosis because we're dropping the water. So you get about 3.5 pounds of 3.5 pounds a week of pure fat loss, and you could probably add in like another 1.5 pounds to round that up to a nice even 5 pounds a week if you were like being really aggressive. But that's your like your kind of minimal baseline is 3.5 pounds a week, or half a pound a day. In practice, you're probably going to be between half a pound to a pound a day, which, by the way, is pretty much not even measurable on the kitchen scale. Well, I mean, not the kitchen scale, but your bathroom scale, because you got daily fluctuations are way more than that. So you got to take measurements over weeks before you even. So if you're the type of person who weighs themselves every morning, and you are expecting to see a clear trend, in case you haven't learned this yet, the natural variability of your body is going to completely obscure even the optimal weight loss scenario. So you've got to be talking on the weeks. You've got to be talking on the looking at your numbers on the scale of weeks to months to get an accurate reading. Now you can take your readings every day, and that's fine. Take it consistently. As soon as you wake up in the morning, do your, relieve yourself in the morning, and then go sit on the scale, or then take your reading before you eat anything or drink anything. And you're wearing the clothes you sleep in, so your clothes are consistent. You try to keep everything, but you take it every day, but you're not making decisions on your diet day to day. You're just putting it on the chart, you come in the next day, you put it on the chart, and eventually you get a trend line. And then that's your weight loss, is the trend line. Your weight loss is not the individual points. It's the direction those points are going. So, I've done the fast, and like you lose an incredible amount of weight really quickly. Now, you don't have to do an extended fast. There's some people, they just do kind of what's called time restricted eating, where they just eat at certain points in the day. So let's say that they only eat between noon and 6 p.m., meaning they only eat lunch and dinner, And the reason why that could be more effective is if you're eating, 5-7 meals a day, like some of the stupid dietitians recommend, then most of the day you are fasting. Most of the day you are emptying the tank instead of filling it. So over time, and there's also hormonal reasons why that could be extra beneficial, is that because you aren't spiking your insulin all the time, you're letting your insulin's levels and your blood sugar levels all decrease for an extended period of time. You're emptying your tank. That's good for your body. It's good for weight loss. And then the next step up from that would be like a 1 meal a day. You could progressively close those eating hours until you get down to 1 meal, and then that's the next step. So you could eat 1 meal a day, or some people call it OMAD because that's the acronym. So you could do 1 meal a day, which is useful. I've done it for a long time, even just naturally. There are many times that I do that just because you get busy. You're not paying attention to what you're eating or whatnot like that, and you realize, you get near the end of the day, I got to eat something. So you eat that something, and that was your 1 meal for the day. One other benefit of 1 meal a day is it's harder to overeat, just because you got to fit a whole day's eating into 1 meal, and it's hard to consume sufficient calories if you're eating a whole foods diet and you're restricting carbohydrates, which we can get into later on a different video. But it's harder to be in a caloric surplus in a single meal. So some people, because ultimately it comes down to calories. It doesn't matter. There are some, it is another optimization to control when you're eating, not just what you're eating or how much. But that's also, by doing OMAD, you naturally kind of fall into eating less without counting calories. And then some people, you're more likely to, if you've been doing it and you're low carb or whatever, or fairly low carbohydrate, you're more likely to be going into ketosis every day, which is kind of ideal from a fat loss perspective, is you're directly switching over to fat loss like every day, so you're being, you know, metabolically flexible, as you would say. But and the next up, so that's 1 meal a day, and then the next up from that is probably alternate day fasting, and that's where you eat one day and then you fast the next, and you eat one day and you fast the next. And you do that either, you know, each day is an alteration, or you set up specific days of the week that you fast for the entire day. And that's kind of what I do when I am doing fasting. When I'm being a good boy, I will fast on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then I eat like normal. I don't pig out or anything. I eat like normal on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. And that's even though, like, I'm exercising still, like even on the days that I'm fasting. And it's fine. It's fine because you got reserves from the days you were eating. You're not going to fall over and die just because you don't eat anything. The only people that fall over and die because they don't eat anything are diabetics. Type 1 diabetics. None of your type 2 diabetics. I've been eating Cheetos for too many years, diabetics. But type 1, something happened to my pancreas and I no longer make insulin, diabetics. Type 1 diabetics are diabetics who don't produce enough insulin. Type 2 diabetics, the vast majority of people who say they have diabetes. Type 2 diabetics are, I make too much insulin because I eat too many carbohydrates, diabetics. You can cure type 2 diabetes or reverse the effects of type 2 diabetes in 2 weeks. 2 weeks you could be off all your medications for type 2 diabetics if you implement a fasting protocol and absolutely stop all carbohydrates as much as possible. And I don't mean as much as you're willing to. I mean that the only carbs that you're consuming are incidental, meaning like there's some sauce on your steak that has a little bit of carbohydrates in it, but you're not eating. You didn't, have a cheat meal and went out to Olive Garden and had some pasta or whatever. But if you could fix your type 2 diabetes just by diet. It's not, you don't need medicine. You just need diet and fasting to fix type 2 diabetes. It's completely manageable without medication at all. It's not even that hard. All right, and then of course the big granddaddy papa or whatever of fasting is the extended fast, and that's where you go days, weeks, months, and in some cases years without eating. Yes, you heard me right, years. There's been medically, scientifically documented cases of people going hundreds of days, like over a year, without eating. There was a dude, I think he was in England or something or other, and who is like holds the world record for the longest fast or whatever. But it's not hard to do. You just don't eat. You don't have to consume anything special. You know, you don't have to get your lemon juice and your apple cider vinegar and blah 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 blah. It's literally, you don't eat, you drink a little bit of water. If you don't have to be super duper strict about it, but you can make it a little more bearable, and just consume unsweetened, like 0-calorie tea or coffee, and that actually helps. The caffeine actually helps a little bit. It's going to help flush your bowels a little bit, and especially after you get a couple of days in, and also it's going to kind of break the monotony of the water. Pro tip, you can make a kind of a salt water solution out of regular table salt, potassium salt, and magnesium salt. So you can make a solution. I'm going to recommend something to you, and it's going to sound crazy because the dude is freaking nuts. But look up snake juice. Yeah. But it's a good recipe for making your own electrolyte solution. And the long story short is you use a little bit of table salt, use a little bit of potassium salt, like the no salt, and then you use a little bit of Epsom salt. And you make a big batch of it. The dude calls it snake juice. I don't know why. But you just watch the YouTube video, snake juice. And that'll be your electrolyte, and that'll help you, like, if you're getting like overly fatigued, because you shouldn't feel like terrible when you fast. Now, some people like to talk about fasting as if it's going to take you onto another plane of existence and raise your spiritual level and bring you to nirvana here on planet Earth or something or other. And they ascribe this huge spiritual and metaphysical aspect of fasting. I can't speak to that, but I can speak to it's kind of lame. Not eating is kind of lame, guys. Not gonna lie, but it's not hard. And you'll get into it, especially if you get into a extended fast, you become painfully aware how much eating is more out of boredom than and routine than actual hunger. And so that's in and of itself is a useful experience. Even if you only do. So here's the thing, fasting, the hardest part, you're going to hear this all the time, but it's absolutely true. The hardest part of fasting is the first couple of days. It's like the first 3 or 4 days. Day 1 isn't too bad. Day 2 also not too bad. But by the time you get to like day 3 and 4, you're feeling pretty crappy because your glycogen stores are depleted. You're ramping up neogenesis, which is your body's breaking down proteins to try and keep your glycogen stores up, which is going to fail at. And ketosis hasn't really kicked in, especially if you're not already a person who's in. If you're already keto. Before you go into fasting, the transition is like nothing. But if you're coming from, your pasta and bread and stuff like that based diet, then you're gonna have to go through this transition. And so, day 3 and 4 are when that transition is worse. Your energy level is lowest. Your hunger is the highest. But after that, And keep in mind, hunger comes in waves. You're like, you even when you're on the fast, you're like, it's not like you just get hungry. When you do get hungry, it comes, and then about within 15 minutes, the hunger's gone. It's just like any other sensation. Your body doesn't just get worse and worse and worse and worse until it overwhelms you. It's just this little spikes. Maybe you get one like around lunchtime, whenever you would normally be eating. That's when you would feel hunger the most. And so yeah, so about to day 3 or 4. So because that transition is kind of difficult, there's really 2 different types of fasts, like in practice. Because nobody, unless they're a masochist, is really doing a fast 3 or 4 days a week, like every week. 3 or 4 days every week. It's because that's the hardest part. You don't want to go through the hardest part over and over and over again. If you're going to do a bunch of fasts, you're going to do it regularly, and you don't want to do an extended one, do like 1 or 2 days. 1 day is honestly probably getting you like 80. 1 day, 2 or 3 days a week or something like that, and you're going to be loads better. But if you want to do an extended fast, make sure you're going sufficiently past day 3 or 4, because you don't want to have to go through that transition every time you fast, because it is pretty rough. But after you get past that day 3 or 4, things get better. I think by the time I got a weekend, every time I get about a weekend, it is just smooth sailing. Food is an afterthought, not even thinking about it. My energy level is decent. It's still fasting, guys. And like people saying they get really energized and really connected and spiritual and all this stuff. So like, for me, it's kind of sucky. It's bored. And the one thing that you want to do when you're bored is eat. So you got to find things to keep you busy, but they can't be overly active because you don't have a lot of energy. You're fasting, guys. Like, you have been for an extended period of time. Your body just does not have, buku amounts of energy just be throwing around, because it's trying to be efficient. At least my body is always trying to be efficient, and it's not going to give me a whole bunch of energy after I get into the fast for a week or 2. But you go in for a week or so, and then it's not that bad. And really, every time I've done an extended fast, and I've done it probably 3 or 4 times for more than a week, you get to some point where you're like, something happens. You feel sick, or you just feel overly lethargic, and it's very clear. To me, it's a very intuitive process. And I don't mean like intuitive mystically or anything like that. I mean intuitive, like my belly grumbles whenever it thinks it's time to eat. I feel some pressure down around my groin when it's time to pee. That kind of intuitive, right? With fasting, I get a notice from my body saying, I've had enough for now. Let's pick this up later, And that's how it always works for me. I get to some point and I go, okay, all right, this doesn't feel right. I don't feel good. Let me break the fast. And it's as simple as that. It's not something mystical. And then usually for breaking a fast, I will have already gotten some bone broth or something to that nature, something with a little bit fat and protein, but not like really heavy. And then I'll have like maybe some sort of soup on hand. So I'll break out the bone broth, and I'll consume that like the morning that I break the fast. And then by that evening, I'll consume that bone broth fairly regularly throughout the day until that evening, when I will have so like in the morning I'll consume the bone broth, and then I think maybe around lunch or afternoon I might have an egg or something like that, and then by that evening I will have a proper meal. But yeah, so let me go ahead and finish this up. Okay, yeah, I almost forgot. Another thing about fasting is, which you may not expect, is you're going to have bathroom visits. Nobody ever talks about it. Maybe it's just my crowds, but nobody ever talks about the urgency of the bathroom visits. And I mean the number 2, guys. So you may have some of that when you're going on the fast, and then after you get done with the fast, you may have some extended rounds with a porcelain king because your digestive system is starting back up and it's cranky, or at least mine usually gets pretty cranky. So that's something else to keep in mind. I'm going to go ahead and finish up this video. I hope you guys found this helpful. Yeah. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Yeah. With a book review. So, yeah. All right. Bye, guys.